Welcome everybody. Welcome to Bulletproof Business Growth. Simone here. And as always, with some ideas and insights what to focus on when you are getting ready to scale your business. So most of you are here because somewhere in the journey to building your business, one of your most important features was that you wanted to have some freedom in this business, which builds freedom in your life. And what we have learned in over 15 years of doing this is there's no freedom in being a business owner unless you've figured out how to replace yourself, which means you have to build a whole bunch of other leaders in your business so that you can focus on whatever else you need to focus on, whether that's growing, scaling the business, or something else that you're bringing to the table. So the big distinction here is the big shift is we have to get out of managing the business and get into leading the business. And then you can hire managers who are taking care of just simple tasks. So the important piece here is start leading. And what will enable you to do that is having really clear systems and structures in place that allow you to manage a system, and that system manages your people. So all of that starts with having absolute operational clarity in your business. So for us, that means there's a system for having a long-term plan that leads to a short-term action plan that leads to having really effective communication. And then you bring all the leadership to the table to hold everybody accountable and enable them to keep growing as contributors in your business. So this feature, this system always has to be observed, otherwise nothing works. So when we get into this system, one of the first questions that we ask is, do we have the right people on our bus? And it's really easy to blame the people. If they're not doing a good job, maybe we don't have the right people. However, a lot of times it's not really the people's fault, it's our fault because we haven't given them the clarity to do a really excellent job for us. So when we bring in systems and strategies, we bring in crystal clarity that enables us as business owners to have a lot of leverage, because now we can actually correctly judge, is this the people that are failing or is this the system that's failing? The system is failing the people. So one of the first things that we bring in when we bring in a system is we make things specific. We set really, really clear goals and expectations and communication that every single person on our team knows exactly what is expected of them, what the deliverables are, by when, and how they connect to the overall business strategy and outcome. So this is creating a bit of a test whether the people on our bus are still the right people. And I want to emphasize that word still, because they may have been the right people when you first got started, and they may have up-leveled with you for quite a while. But there's a really big difference between your business's startup phase and for some businesses that lasts for 10, 20 years because they're not really evolving their systems and structures. So they keep getting stuck in that one place, in that one phase. And then there are a very different set of people who are in the growth and scaling phase because they're focused on different skill sets and mindset. So we have to find out if the people we have are going to be the people who can actually grow with us in this next phase of business where we're up-leveling tremendously. So first we have to ask ourselves, when we set these goals and expectations, are we setting them big enough so that they're inspiring, that they're challenging, because that makes things also interesting? But are we not making them so big that they're becoming unrealistic and unachievable? So we need to challenge the team to find out what they're made of. So when we think about how we set a plan, well, for a lot of business owners, they make plans and those plans are pretty vague. There's not enough clear action steps on there. There's not enough good measures and metrics connected to these action steps so that it all kind of sounds good, but nobody really knows, is this actually working? So we have to make sure that the action steps we set, that they're specific enough so we can hold people accountable to them. So once we chunk them down small enough and make them specific enough, then it's our job as leaders, or your leader's job who's leading the other people, to review, how's it actually going? Are we hitting our goals and expectations, or are we not? Because then that next cycle is, okay, so now that we have provided the clarity, we have put the people in place who we believe can actually grow with us, now we are challenging them and testing them to make sure that they can stay in this seat for the next at least 6 to 18 months, because that's about a reasonable amount of time to expect somebody to stay on the team and contribute at a very, very high level. Of course, some people stay longer, some people leave sooner, but that is about the average time in today's market. And that's sometimes a lot of our business owners who've been in business for a long time have unrealistic expectations about this because they feel like people should be staying far longer than that. And hopefully they will, but only if they continuously up-level their performance. If they don't, they're not the right people on our bus anymore. So when we start having these conversations, our team members need the feedback, because they need to know, hey, what's actually working? Because then, that triggers that human needs for contribution and significance. Like, yes, what I'm doing is working, so I'm going to do more of that. So they need to hear this from you, or what you're doing is actually not working. And then we need to collaborate and figure out as a team how we can fix that. So when you go through this process, the only way to actually get to this place where you can replace yourself, where you can create that freedom that you've been looking for, is you have to make peace with the fact that there's going to be some failure. People will fail, and we actually need them to, because that's the best lesson they will ever receive. Now, that's only going to be a lesson if we coach them through that experience, because how they respond to failure gives you a ton of intel about what kind of leader they are. Because here's the thing, they can fail and recognize that they will fail. They can surface that. They can ask for help. They can own it and fix it. Or they can recognize that they're failing and they are sweeping it under the rug. They hope that nobody will notice. And then we find out when it's far too late and there's already been a lot of damage that has been created. So we want to know, like, who are our people? Because this will help us identify the leaders in the pack. Because we also have to know, how are they responding as team members? Are they going to be ego-driven, self-focused, and make it all about them? Like, they are the heroes who show up to fix it. They're taking it all on, which is actually the wrong response. Or are they going to act as a team, where they bring it to the team, they ask the team for help and collaboration, and they solve it as a team, because a few people who are focused on the same direction are always going to have a better outcome than just one person. So we want to make sure that they show up, that they surface whatever's going on, and that they become the cheerleader on the team instead of sitting in a corner and having a pity party for themselves. And then failure, of course, the most valuable part about it is to take the time and the effort to really reflect and do a retrospective and find out, what did we learn here? And that is, when you think about that process, that is the core, or that should be the core of the culture that you're building in your company. And that's, as a leader, that'll make all the difference between you actually having that freedom, the external freedom where you can go away and trust your team and all that stuff. But more importantly, even that internal freedom where you have the peace and the trust to step away and your bandwidth is actually clear and you're not thinking about what could be going wrong at home. So when you're team goes through this process where they first learn how to take ownership, that failure is part of the process. When things don't work out, you'll have to coach them how to get through disappointment, because that's when you focus on them. Of course, this is also going to be your own disappointment because something went wrong. That probably means you have to do some cleanup somewhere, but your focus should be on them to coach them through, why was this actually a win? And then empower them. You're not going to take over and fix this, except for if there's some places that are, highly customer facing, where you have to fix optics and the narrative of the whole thing. But the thing itself, they need to figure out how to fix, and you're only coaching them for how to deal with that. So where you're empowering them to know, what, when I go out on a limb, when I risk something, when I innovate, when I do something I do not know how, I'm going to screw up. That's just a universal law. And I know enough. I know what to do about it, so I can actually fix this. I can actually take ownership over the whole process. And part of that is that's being part of a team, that's learning the lesson, that's part of the journey of making things better. And it also helps them understand, I'm a part of the team. These are my lessons. This is part of the journey. And my team's got my back. My leaders got my back. And that's what they need to know, so that they can take a risk. If they think that you're just going to come down on them like a ton of bricks, you're going to be pissed, you're going to be disappointed, you're going to make that about you, they will not take risks. They will not go on a limb for you. They will not innovate. And now your bottleneck is you. So this is a very, very important piece of the process, because we have to help them shift from that experience of pain to progression. This is part of progress. And our failure to engage in that progress means also we have a failure to move forward. And as part of this progress, it's very important to give people a lot of acknowledgement and recognition. Acknowledgement, even when it goes wrong, that they tried, that they innovated, that they tried something. You have to acknowledge that they did, even if it didn't work. And the recognition for being courageous, taking on something, doing things differently, that is a huge, huge piece of leadership training and helping your people to level up and do things that they would not ordinarily have done. So a successful team really takes everybody acting in that manner. And you as a leader, you have to set aside your hubris and your ego, and everybody else has to do the same thing. So we're really looking at what results are we driving as a team. And that's what brings together a group of people who could just be very ego focused, and makes them into a team where now we're focused on the greater good and on the whole. And that's the thinking that helps people be strategic and show up at a higher level. And that's the people you can grow with. So we have to go from that experience of being a group of people to being a team who has the same goals. And guess what? As a leader, you always set the tone for this. So you have to think about your actions, the way you show up to your team sets this tone for the whole team. They will model after you. So if you come in, you always save the day, you always take over, you micromanage, you take things away from them, like all the things that you might want to do, because in the end, it all comes back on you. But if you don't work through this process, they will never lean in and actually take a risk and do things for you that you could have never done on your own. So as a leader, your most important sentence is, how can I help? You did an amazing job just trying this. Even if it didn't work, let me give some feedback for how this is going to work better going forward. Because what's true here is, when you have a team, every single person matters. As a business owner of a small business, you can't afford not having a single person on your team who's not bringing their A game. And bringing your A game requires all these things we just talked about. So I hope this helps. We have a great training out there that really goes into this in much, much more detail. Go to bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com, bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com, and check out the training there. Have a fabulous week.